Hi there, my name is Teresa Tysinger, and I'm going to be reading to you today from my latest novel, Someone Found. This is the latest in my Laurel Cove romance series. They're each standalone books, though, so if you haven't read the others, you can totally start with this one. I'm going to be reading to you from chapter 7. Just to give you a little bit of background, Quinn is someone who started hiking the Appalachian Trail all the way up in Maine, where she was from, and has now found herself sort of stranded all the way down in the mountains of North Carolina. And she is staying at the camp run and owned by Eli. So in this little excerpt, she and Eli are talking one evening on the porch of the main house of the camp. So here we go. "The lightning bugs are really showing off tonight," Eli finally said, returning his gaze to the forest past the porch. Quinn swallowed her relief at the change of subject. "You mean fireflies?" "No, I mean lightning bugs." His thick accent pulled at the corner of her mouth. "It really is a different world down here from up north." "Nah," Eli said. "We just talk slower, use a few different words for things you do, and are maybe a little nicer." "Hey!" Without thinking, Quinn reached and swatted his arm. "See?" he said with a furrowed brow, rubbing his arm. Their shared laughter filled the porch until a firefly flew between them and landed on the arm of Eli's rocking chair. Quinn watched as Eli gently cupped his hands around it, stood, and motioned for her to join him. Sarge stood too and stretched, then circled a few times before plopping down again. The dog could really walk all day without seeming tired, but sure seemed to be enjoying their downtime at the camp. Quinn patted him on the head before following behind Eli. They walked down the porch steps and around to the far side of the house, away from any lights. With the sun now completely below the horizon, Quinn could barely make out Eli's tall frame when he stopped and turned to face her. He raised his cupped hands toward her. "Come close." His whisper sent tingles up her neck. She took a step closer and watched as he opened his hands. At first, nothing happened. Maybe he'd lost the bug along the way. But then a yellow glow illuminated the faint lines of his palm, and she gasped, "I've never seen one up close. It's so bright." With that, the bug took flight. Quinn watched as it fluttered away from them and out toward the field. Wonder filled her at the sea of blinking lights dancing in front of them. Hundreds, it seemed, maybe thousands. Eli watched the field with her, standing near enough that the warmth of his shoulder radiated toward hers. As someone who liked being alone, Quinn was surprised to find his presence comforting in a way she hadn't realized she desperately needed. "When I was a kid, I was so scared of the dark," he said. "My dad once told me that darkness often seems all-consuming, but it's no match for the tiniest bit of light. An entire night sky can be shattered by one pinpoint of a star, or one tiny lightning bug. There are actually millions of tiny points of light fighting the darkness. Hundreds of fireflies doing their work to brighten up the world. We just have to look for them." Quinn smiled up at him at his use of her word. "It's beautiful. Thanks for showing me." "I hope you'll let some light in, Quinn." His soft words constricted her heart with an aching truth. "I don't know how," she thought to herself. "I'll try," she said. They watched the blinking field for another few minutes before walking back to the front of the house. Quinn called for Sarge, who stood from his napping spot on the porch, stretched, and sauntered down the steps. At the top of the path that led to her cabin, Quinn looked up at Eli again. "Thanks for a great evening. This place surprises me a little more every day." "It was a good night." He studied her a long moment, the kind smile that never really faded, calling a heat to her cheeks. "See you in the morning." She smiled back and nodded, then started down the path. Sarge a few steps ahead of her. Before she made it to the door of the cabin, she looked back over her shoulder. Her heart skipped a beat at the sight of Eli watching her from the top of the porch steps. With a short wave, she stepped inside and released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. After getting ready for bed, Quinn took the journal off her nightstand and flipped through its pages, looking for a section she remembered a while back. As a little aside, this is the journal of her father, who also journeyed on the Appalachian Trail. So this is a page that she's going to read from that. It took her a bit, but she finally found the entry. May 18th, Brushy Mountain, Virginia. Made it to the partnership shelter just a few minutes after a downpour started this afternoon. Even luckier was sharing the shelter with a pair of hikers who shared some food. It was nice to have something different from what I have in my own pack. The thing that surprised me most about this journey is how nice most other AT hikers are. It's a real community. I guess I've come to expect the worst of people lately. Franny told me before I left, be nice. Look for nice around you and bring some nice back home. Guess I'm doing okay so far. Quinn laid the journal against her chest and rested her head on the pillow. She could certainly relate. It wasn't just this place that kept surprising her. It was the people of Laurel Cove, too. How strange it was to sense, for a moment, a connection with her dad. They had both been surprised in simple niceness. She cut the lamp off and invited sleep with a light heart. For the first time since Quinn could remember, she actually looked forward to what the next day might bring. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoy it. Someone found. Thanks. Have a good day.